Welcome to Tuna Theory, the channel where science dives deep, true stories get untangled, inventions spark your imagination, theories to unhook, and weird things will get even weirder, weirder than your neighbor. This episode is about the shadow people. They are known to be seen in broad daylight, at night, and in dreams. Children and adults who suffer from sleep paralysis are known to be attacked by the shadow people. They have been known to scare, stare, and warn of dangers. Many will describe one as wearing a wide-brimmed hat with red eyes. They come in different forms and sizes. The following are accounts from different people all over the world. In my early 20s, while I was attending college, I had experienced this phenomenon for about a month. I would fall asleep and would experience sleep paralysis 3 to 4 times in a night. I began to fear going to sleep. The scary part is it did not matter whether the light was on or off, the experience was still the same. The odd part about this experience is that when I would fall asleep somehow, I would end up on the left side of my bed, almost always. The shadow would manifest in the corner of my room. I knew I was not dreaming because items in the room were in the same position. I left them in. The shadow would hover over to the left side of my bed. I was petrified. I could not move or cry out for help. I could not muster a sound. It would put its arm over me. I could not make out fingers or distinguish any further details that would give definition to what I was seeing. The closer the arm got, the more terrified I became. I would begin to hear this deep humming sound rising in frequency until my head felt like it was going to explode. I felt like the sound was accompanied by a seizure. My body felt like it was convulsing, but from the inside, the sound grew to such a discomforting level my consciousness would phase out. And on some occasions, I would wake back up into the partial awake state with the shadow. It happened in my own bedroom in my apartment during the day. My room was bright as the sun shone with piercing rays through my blinds. Then suddenly the sun seemed to be dampened and my room became darker. Or did my vision become darker? I'm not sure. As the room darkened, I felt an increasing feeling of tiredness overwhelm me, and I immediately fell asleep on my bed. Within what felt like seconds, I remember drifting off and suddenly panic took over as I began to choke. Fighting for my breath, I opened my eyes and saw someone looking down at me. Its eyes were white with deep, dark pupils that looked endless. Its head had no lines, as if my eyes could not comprehend. As it gazed upon me with its sinister eyes and a shadow of a body, I was paralyzed. My petrified body could not physically fight back, and I overcame it with panic. While struggling, my fear quickly turned to determination, and my will broke through this enthralling gaze, and I grabbed a hold of its hands around my neck. Its eyes showed shock, and in less than a second it had retreated, and as the traces of its form left my room, the light chased the shadows from my room. All the hair just went up on my arm when you mentioned a pressure demon. My wife says I stopped breathing, but in my waking dream I saw a black entity jumping off my chest. And then the dream of this thing was suffocating me. I did not tell my wife until nearly a year or so later, when she told me that she saw a shadow walking in the house. Consequently, I saw the same thing right where she described them. I have absolutely seen a shadow figure both during the day and at night, while lucid and sober. It was so bizarre I still don't know what to think, but I know what I saw. Interestingly, the figure was as crisp as a silhouette, like one of the leaning cowboy decorations. But less benign, it was in my direct field of vision. I would have thought it was a Halloween decoration if it weren't in my backyard. I think about it frequently, but I was not afraid. I was gardening at night with a high-power exterior light, which made it even more alarming. The other time was during the day while remodeling an old home. It was slightly blurry, but I saw it nonetheless. Saw a shadow person in a military barracks in the early 90s. My roommate was asleep, and it was standing at the end of the beds with red eyes. I was scrambling and struggling to find the light switch on the nightstand while feeling the scariest, oppressing, evil feeling I have felt in my life. When I found the light switch, it was gone, and the feeling was gone. My roommate works up, and we checked the room to make sure there was nobody else in the room. Never felt pure terror and dread like that since in my life. I found out about shadow people and sleep paralysis years later. Nothing bad was going on at that point in my life. Never seen it again. You can have some pure fear and adrenaline moments in the military, but nothing topped this experience. I saw a solid black figure brisk walk right to left of the bay window in broad daylight. It moved very fast, but I definitely saw it. My ex-girlfriend also saw it twice. The first time at dusk, it came from the carport into the back laundry door while she was by the washing line. Her black Pomeranian saw it and barked at it. The second time, she was having a bath. The bathroom door was fully open. It came from the carport again, but this time through the side entrance into the unit down the hallway and stood at the bathroom doorway. The bathroom door moved halfway and stopped. Hey everyone, the YouTube algorithm is destroying me. Would you support this? My subscribing, liking, commenting, and share with someone who has seen shadow creatures. That would be awesome, and I would appreciate it. The first time I saw him, I was playing Barbies with my younger sibling in front of the door to our basement. It's a small wall, so there was a corner right next to us. We were playing, and I saw a shadowy man with a top hat peeking through the corner, and I looked over, and he dipped back behind the corner. That repeated about 3 times before I looked to my sibling and told them to stay there before I got up and looked around the corner, and I saw the shadow of a tall, fancy man standing in front of me, and then he tipped his hat with a bow and vanished. Second time I woke up, I had a loft bed, and I looked in the corner just next to my closet with no doors. He was standing in between the closest and the chair in my room. I sat up and waved at him. Then he waved back, tipped his hat, and vanished. Then I decided, well, I'm awake, I'll go downstairs and get a snack. I got out of bed and walked downstairs. Halfway down the stairs, I saw the hat man in the kitchen with a mug in hand, and when I got to the kitchen, coffee was made and the mug was in the sink. The last time was very brief. I was telling my friends about him and saying what a chill dude he is, and then me and my friends walked past the bathroom next to my room, and he was standing in the bathtub. He tipped his hat and vanished. I remember sleeping in the living room with my brother and sister. There was a bed in there that my brother and sister were sleeping on with their feet poking off the end, and I was sleeping on the couch across from the bed. I woke up at around 4 a.m. or so and looked over and saw the hat man. He took off his hat and kneeled to my brother's feet, got up and did the same to my sister's. I saw him get up and turn around to get to me. I was so scared I decided to cover my eyes with the blanket. But after about a minute under the blanket, I got too hot and couldn't breathe. So I peeked my head out, only to see his face staring right in my face. It was all white, surprisingly, like if someone was wearing a clay face mask. I couldn't believe what I was seeing and decided to keep my head under the blanket despite how hot it was. All I was thinking about was what time it was because I was waiting for someone to get up and get ready for work. Someone finally comes out at around 6 a.m. to 7-ish, and that's that I go to school. Now, when I come back from school, I walk past my brother on the family computer logging onto MySpace, and as I walked by him, I glanced at the screen super quick, and I saw the face on the screen. It was not even a full second because I looked as soon as my brother hit the enter button to log in. I yelled at him to go back to the login page, and he wouldn't do it for me. But this is my experience with the Hat Man, and I've been telling everyone I know this story for years. I didn't know it was a full-on phenomenon until about a year ago. Hi, I've had my first experience with the Hat Man a week before. I've woken up at around 4 a.m. in the morning, unable to move at all, but with my eyes open, only to see him standing above me. After a few seconds, he started speaking in some sort of language I've never heard before. And while doing that, my vision started becoming very blurry, and in a vibrating sort of way. Also, for a few seconds, a floating head of someone with its eyes closed appeared. I was extremely scared of what was happening, to the point I was yelling for my brother to come into the room. He said I was making very weird sounds that he's never heard before. I'm very curious to know what everything meant, and if it will happen again. Woke up this morning to my daughter a little freaked out because while she was coloring, she felt that someone was behind her. When she turned around, she said she saw a tall, white, blurry ghost wearing a hat standing behind a support pole in our living room. She said it got taller and moved towards the stairs and just disappeared. I asked her what kind of hat, and she said one of those old tilt your head and nod hats. We went through some pictures, and she pointed out a top hat. I showed her a picture of a shadow hat man that was drawn up by someone. She said it looked exactly like that, but not black, no red eyes. It was tall, white, and blurry. I've only seen the Hat Man once in my life when I was drunk half asleep. I had just turned 21, but like everyone else, it was shadow black. Does anyone know of or had any occurrences where the Hat Man was white? So I'm not sure how to say this, but I game a lot. My desk is adjacent to a door frame at the top of the stairs, and it's often 12:05 a.m. that I'm gaming. It's 3 a.m. right now. But more often I've started seeing what feels like a shadow. Tall, almost the height of the door frame in a fedora, or a top hat and a trench coat just creeping around the edge of the door. I feel like it's watching me, though. I haven't had a bad experience. Every time I look where I think I see it, it's not there, but I feel like I can see movement where I'm seeing it. Hit subscribe to join the Tuna Theory tribe. Give this video a big thumbs up if it reeled you in, and share it with your friends who love a good deep dive into the strange, wild, and wonderful. As a small child, between the ages of 3 to 12, I would see the Hat Man almost every night. And no, I was not asleep. I was always fully awake, against my will even. My childhood house has been and still is haunted, but his presence was different. He didn't have glowing red eyes like some people see. He was tall but almost skin and bones at times. His distance to my bedroom door would change. I've been told by a lot of people in my life I have an excess amount of empathy and sense things I shouldn't, so with the Hat Man I could feel when he was angry with me, I guess. Sometimes he'd be smug like he knew something I didn't. Others he'd be nothing, emotionless, which is more scary than you think. But he never entered my room, he felt like he couldn't. I would talk to him out loud or even in my head, and I know he could hear me regardless, and hide under the covers, but I could still feel him there. His inability to enter my room would make him extremely angry, to the point he would change into an alien like creature at times and crouch in my closet, which I felt wasn't part of my room as my parents used it for storage. He would be a gray green color, ribs and bones extremely exposed, his arms 3 times as long as his body. His legs would be so long his knees felt like they touched his ears when squatting. Once my parents got divorced and my mom moved out, I never saw him again. I grew up overseas and I have seen him, or what I think was him, 6 times in 3 different countries. He has looked different in shape and size, but always has a hat and all black, with almost a lack of information around the face. I was always completely awake and sober. When this happened, started around age 10, after a few encounters, I started noticing correlations. After I'd see him, within the next month something bad would happen in my life, usually the death of someone in my family circle. The second time I saw him was a few days before my best friend was murdered. After I realized this, I got very scared when I saw him. I saw him when I was pregnant, and I immediately knew that something was going to happen. 2 weeks later, I had a miscarriage. I want to start by saying I currently work at a haunted house type place. I am in a jump scare room as a jump scare creature. This one session, just 10 minutes ago, when I came up, I saw him standing behind one of the guests. I can see the guests' faces, but he was full shadow with almost a top hat, but a bit shorter, a tall fedora maybe. In addition, the actress makes a habit of stating how many guests enter the room. She said 4, but he made it 5. She didn't see him either. If it's true that he's attracted to fear, then this is certainly the place. I work at an assisted living facility with a memory care unit. I usually work the morning shift, but I picked up an overnight shift for my boss because the assisted living unit didn't have anyone for that shift. There were only 2 of us on the night shift. I was in the assisted living unit and my coworker was in our memory care unit. For context, our memory care unit has cameras, but they are not on 247 for privacy reasons. The apartments have motion sensors that detect movement below the waist, and once the movement is detected, the camera will turn on and record for a period of time and send it to our work phone so we can watch to see if our residents have had a fall. After a certain amount of time, the footage will delete itself. We have a room in the dementia unit that is known as the bad luck room where residents go to die. Every resident we've had in this specific apartment has only lasted about 6 to 9 months, and at this time it is still empty because we just lost our former resident living there. Around 3 a.m., my coworker came and found me in my unit, and he appeared to be pretty shaken up. He told me our camera system detected movement in our bad luck room, which again was unoccupied at the time. We both pulled up the video footage on the work phone, and to our surprise, there was a silhouette of a man in the corner of the apartment with a top hat on. I've had other coworkers tell me that they've seen this man in the memory care unit before, and I did not believe them until I saw the footage myself. I did not go into the room to check for myself because I was scared as fuck, and I never worked a night shift there since. Thanks for tuning into Tuna Theory, where the ordinary gets flipped and the extraordinary gets explained. Keep your fins sharp and your minds sharper. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the depths.